Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and tonight I am flying solo. I'm down at the beach. I've arrived a couple of days ago. What I wanted to talk about tonight is before I came down here, my wife and my kid were away for 3 nights. I left at around 11 o'clock on Monday, and I didn't see my wife until later on Wednesday and my kid until Thursday morning, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So they went away. I was home by myself at home for 2 nights. Now, I've been away for work before, but being at home by yourself just feels different. When you're at work, you've got your work goggles on and you're generally to and from the office and interacting with people at work or people that you work with. You might be in the hotel room for a while, you probably call your other half and you still have contact that way. It seems different when you're at home alone. It's strange, it's unusual, it's weird being in a house you're used to being in with other people and being there by yourself. So it really felt different. It felt a lot different to being away for work. And it felt a lot different to being at home when there's other people around. Did I miss my wife and my kid? Of course I did. There's certain things I didn't miss. I didn't miss the additional chores of having 3 people in the house, like having to unpack the dishwasher every morning because we go through that many dishes, cooking more food, those sort of things. Certainly didn't miss that, but absolutely missed the interaction and just family life as much as anything else. So with them being away for 2 nights, what did I actually do? Did I go out and party? Did I have people over and just play poker and have a big booze up with mates? Did I just order a pizza and just watch TV by myself? Well, I'm a pretty boring creature sometimes. A lot of what I did was just work. So they left at 11 o'clock on Monday. I basically then sat down in front of the computer and worked all the way through until 9 o'clock with a break for lunch and a break for dinner. I cooked myself lunch and I went out with my father-in-law for dinner because he happened to be in the area. Spent an hour with him. But a lot of it was just working. I woke up the next day at sort of 5:30, went for a run, sat down, worked through, and very similar on Thursday, I just got up and worked and then did a lot of banked up chores as well, chores which had been put off over the weekend, things like washing my kid's sheets because he's a very allergic sort of kid, allergic to dust mites. So on a weekly basis, we need to hot wash his clothes and dry them. Things like that hadn't been done, so it's just really getting through doing things like that. Just generally tidying up the house. So a lot of work and banked up chores. The other thing I didn't really enjoy was having a little bit of freedom, the ability to eat at normal times, not do as many chores, not having to cook the little fella meals at specific times, not having to be around at certain times during the day for nap time or when he gets up or to put him to bed or to be asked 100,000 times, oh, what would I like about X movie, which I haven't even seen. So I didn't have to do any of that. So it was a freedom in my time, albeit I spent it doing what a lot of people would call boring things. I watched an hour of television in total, I think, during those 2.5 days. And that was first thing on Tuesday morning when my soccer team was playing over in England. So that's what I did. What else did I feel? Well, I wasn't as tired. As I mentioned before, I wasn't doing nearly as many chores. So it wasn't as a load of washing pretty much every day. Somehow my wife seems to go through 2 pairs of underwears on average a day. I don't know how 2 pairs of underwear is actually plausible or possible, but that's what happens. Little fella goes through at least 1 set of clothing on a daily basis, sometimes 2 depending on what he's doing. Not nearly as much washing, not nearly as much cleaning, not nearly as much cooking. I felt less tired as a result of that. Like, as I said before, I was working a lot of the day and from early in the morning until sort of later at night, but I didn't feel tired. Having a kid is much more exhausting than having a job, albeit I have a job in professional services. I'm not doing something which is, really relying on my body, manual labour sort of based stuff, which would make you physically tired. I wasn't nearly as tired come 9:30 at night, not having to team, co-parenting the kid with all the chores, with work as well. I was a little bit bored though, just doing the same thing a couple of days in a row and not actually talking to anyone. I didn't really have a conversation with anyone outside of being on the phone for 2 days. The biggest conversation I had might have been with the kebab man when I got a kebab on Tuesday night for dinner. So I was a little bit bored, not being able to talk to anyone or choosing to talk to anyone, I guess, to some extent as well. So there's less day-to-day chores. I guess part of it was a bit lonely as well. Being at home by yourself is maybe a little bit lonely. It wasn't too bad. It was only a short period of time. But if I was doing that for a week or a couple of weeks on end, I could feel that would feel isolating, or it would feel lonely, not having anyone else to really chat to. At the end of it, I did get the train down to where my better half and my kid were staying. It was about 2.5 hours away on public transport. Of course, they're at a beach. We live about 5 minutes from a beach, but we travel to another beach for inverted commas holidays, because the beach at home apparently doesn't really feel like a holiday. It's just home with a beach, where if you're away from your house, you're not doing domestics and you're just concentrating on having a good time. I can kind of understand that a little bit, but it's always ironic that we travel from somewhere where there's a beach in close proximity to a place where there's a beach in close proximity. But part of this is actually getting the train. I got the train through Frankston at around midday on Wednesday afternoon. And I love going through Frankston at any time, especially at those sort of hours, because it just keeps everything in context. I saw 3 people drinking out of open wine bottles, people riding down the street on bicycles, like shouting at the top of their head at other people, just really weird, random stuff. There was a medical centre near the train station there. The queue was out the door at midday on a Wednesday. Just crazy stuff, which it always pays to keep in the back of your head. We're really lucky in Australia. I know I'm really lucky to have exceptionally good family and friends, and I feel loved. I know some people don't, and they turn to things like drinking a bottle of wine in the middle of the day in public. I'm really lucky that I don't ever feel the need to do that. It always pays to keep these sort of things in perspective and have that context. And seeing the other side of life makes you feel grateful for what you really have. And a lot of people are not grateful for what they got and take a lot of things for granted. So that was a real perfect sort of eye-opener on the back of being sort of home alone for a little bit, that, it could be much, much worse. I could be home alone all the time by myself. I could turn to doing whatever I need to do in the middle of the day just to survive a day. But I arrived down on Wednesday afternoon, and my wife and I had our first night together away from the kid in 4 years. Basically 4 years. So, since he was born in early 2016, one of us has always been at home with him overnight. This is the first time both of us had gone out for a night, like the whole night, without one of us being back for him to be asleep. And it felt a bit weird. It felt really strange because we haven't done it for so long. Our normality is one of us will always be there for his bedtime. Neither of us were. We kept checking the watch roughly when he'd go to bed and kind of going, I wonder if he's asleep now. Like, he still ends up being most of the things you talk about, but we got to have dinner at a normal time instead of having it at like 5:15 or 5:30. We got to have dinner at 6:15, 6:30. We didn't have to get up at 7 a.m. and have it go the next morning. Basically, as soon as 7 a.m. hits and the little fella gets up, it's go until 7 p.m. Apart from like a little nap in the middle of the day, which we're still really lucky that he has. But it's hell for leather from the moment you wake up at 7 o'clock until the moment he goes to bed at 7 p.m. So actually laying in bed on Thursday morning and watching TV, it felt really weird because I can't remember the last time I actually did that, because a lot of the time it is literally just bang up and get going. So parts of it were really weird, parts of it was really good, but everything went okay with it. There was no issues. We didn't get called back at midnight because the kid hadn't settled or hadn't gone to sleep or got up shouting out for us. He's getting to the age now where you can reason with him, you can talk to him, he talks back in conversations, you can have a conversation with him. So I didn't expect there to be any issues, and it was great that there were no issues, but still there's that little sort of doubt in the back of your mind when we booked this that it would all go ahead for one and it would all go well, but everything went well and we had a really nice dinner out and a really nice night, and then just be able to just sort of have a sleep in inverted commas or a lay-in on the next morning was just, a really nice thing to actually do on the back of especially me not seeing either of them for the best part of 2.5 days. So it was an unusual week by my standards, or standards of a lot of people out there. But it was a really interesting one because you get to look at things in a different way. You get to look back at, sort of the way you used to run your life 5 or 10 years ago before kids, or before you're in a marriage, and how you do things now, and how some things change. You would have done a few things different back in the day, inverted commas, but some things wouldn't. I probably still would have done a fair bit of work if I had a couple of days to myself, because there are very few times that you get sort of focused time without any interruptions. If you work in a workplace, there's always interruptions. There's always a meeting for something, or a meeting for some other thing, which is mostly, in most instances, fairly irrelevant. So it was just good to look back this week and actually compare how I would have spent this sort of time 10 years ago with how I've spent it now, but also actually work through the things that I did do, some of the things that I felt, and then, always in the back of my mind that I'm grateful for, I guess, where I've kind of landed. That's all for Daddy Eats Last this week. I'll be back in the real world next week. I'm already back in the real world now. Once I walked in the next morning after we'd had our night away, it was pretty much back to reality, as the Eminem song would go. But we'll all be back next week for another episode of Daddy Eats Last. If you haven't already subscribed to Daddy Eats Last, please do so on iTunes and leave us a review. And we'd love to hear from you. If you want to write to us at team@daddyeatslast.com, just say hello. You can ask us a question or a topic we can discuss on the show. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, that's all for Daddy Eats Last. Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.